Roughly 4,000 people amount to a staggering 20% of the United States GDP. If this doesn't sound absurd initially, it might be better to consider it as 20% of the national wealth in the hands of 0.004% of the entire population. There is a vast barrier between the rich and poor within our nation that can heavily be blamed upon corruption. Corporate industries loot money from consumers, robber barons exploit the efforts of you laborers, and most especially, greedy politicians abuse their role of power. While not many within this field of politics are responsible for scandals, these few examples tarnish the entire nation's reputation. In this time of social reform and progressivism, I urge you people to address this national issue of political corruption. The heart of this issue, I believe, lies in how members of Congress are chosen. Having representatives elected by other representatives blatantly goes against the ideology of democracy. This leads to trust-dominated legislatures where muckrakers have already exposed scandalous intimacies between greedy corporations and Congress. These trust-dominated legislatures are heeded by the voices of their masters rather than the voices of the masses. Minimizing corruption is essential to maintaining our democratic state. An example of this has already occurred where $3,000 of the government's naval funds had fallen into the hands of a sinister politician, Albert B. Hall. During President Harding's term, he had appointed Albert B. Hall into his tightly knit cabinet, and this presented Hall with a great amount of national power without the vote of people. It was later discovered that Teapot Dome in Wyoming and Elk Hills, California had been leased through a colossal fraud by Hall to two powerful oil men in order for masses of money. This just goes to show how corruption elicits a major issue that requires being dealt with by us people. Bringing an affirmative end to corruption is a tedious and nearly impossible task, I agree. But by assuring more power into the hands of the people, corruption is preventable to a certain extent. Though the institution of election by popular vote for all in political positions is difficult to achieve at first, a small act of legislation is enough to spark this reform. Direct elections of senators has been a continued goal of us progressives in order to diminish corruption, and this is a great place to start. Direct elections would eradicate political graft, bribery, and corruption, thereby revitalizing the entire political system by shifting power from parties and state legislatures to uncorrupted lay voters. The initial step of direct elections for Senate is a fundamental cornerstone in the long run for minimizing corruption through democracy. Starting with this efforts, direct elections are even expandable to cabinet members and Supreme Court justices, leading to our ultimate goal. Keep in mind the mindset of voters is also pertinent to this context of political corruption. Us progressives have a deep concern with removing class consciousness from politics. By forgetting one's social position, it is easier for us people to unify towards a common political goal. The end of political corruption heavily lies in the hands of people, as it requires legislative action in favor of voting and a change of political mindset. The issue of political corruption is much greater than that of the governments. Corruption is a taxpayer's issue, corruption is an entrepreneur's issue, and corruption is an issue linked to everyone in the nation. By passing legislation allowing direct elections, the nation is preventing itself from being tarnished by greed. I urge you all in this era of progressivism to confront this subject. Corruption's toll is dire, and it is only possible to counter it through the combined efforts of all of us. Thank you.